Some of you may be shocked to hear that 2 years ago when my dad passed away, he was 91, nearly 92. That means he was 58 when I was born. Some people can't wrap their heads around it, and actually when I was younger, much younger in school, I used to be embarrassed about it, and I used to wish he was younger, and I used to pretend he was my granddad sometimes. In hindsight, actually now, it's one of the best things that could have happened to me. He was so wise, had so much life experience, and now I am who I am mainly because of him. In this video, I'll be sharing the top 3 lessons that I learned from him, and crucially, how you can incorporate these into your life as well. Hi everyone, my name's Will and welcome back to the channel Average to Epic. I help you get clear on what it is you want to do with your life, how to stop feeling stuck, how to move forward and create the life of your dreams. So if you like the video, give it a like, click subscribe below, click that bell notification as well, and let's get straight into it. Now, the first lesson that I learned from my 91-year-old dad was don't complain. Now, I remember about 5 years ago, I found out one day that his arm was hurting. So I asked him, how long has your arm been hurting? Expecting him to say a few days, a week maybe. 6 months was his answer. I was absolutely shocked. And he just shrugged his shoulders and said, well, you just have to carry on with things. Now, just to be clear, I'm not condoning that you walk around with your arm hanging off for 6 months, far from it. However, what this says to me is that he would only talk about things if deemed important enough. So to give you some context, he was a boy during the Second World War, and then he was in the Air Force immediately after the war had just finished. And his point was, when you grow up with bombs falling all around you, night after night, you literally don't know if you'll be alive the next day. There's barely enough food to go on the table. You don't moan about trivial things. It puts everything in perspective. And actually, I think this makes perfect sense. So we're all familiar with the term first world problems, but it's so true. I know that I've complained so many times about not having any money and being starving and not having a flashy sports car outside and not having a big house. And the biggest problem of them all, my phone has died. What a nightmare. But seriously, come on. Being born in a Western country, we have already hit the jackpot. We're not poor like the rest of the world. We're not literally starving like so many people out there. The fact we even have a phone in the first place is actually pretty cool. So the lesson that I've taken from all of this is don't sweat the small stuff. Don't moan about trivial things. Don't complain. Just carry on. Just keep moving forward. Keep focused on your goals and your dreams, and eventually things will happen. And this is a big trend actually that I notice with super successful people. You don't often hear them complaining, or at least about trivial things. They're focused on the big things. They're focused on their goals. They sort of block out all the other BS around them and they just keep going. And actually, you often hear these people say as well, if you're complaining about small things, you need bigger problems. So to keep this video as practical as possible for you guys, I'm going to include some real ways that you can incorporate this lesson into your life. Okay, so number 1 is gratitude. This is a big one that I have mentioned a few times on this channel. And this is sort of my go-to strategy if I'm feeling a bit low, a bit down, focusing on the things that aren't good in my life. I think about the things that are good. So if you had to be grateful for something, what would you be grateful for? So for example, I woke up this morning. That's pretty good. A lot of people don't wake up in the morning. I've got a fridge full of food downstairs. I've got a car outside. I've got a roof over my head. I've got some money in the bank. Life's actually pretty good. And they say that it's physically impossible to be depressed and to be grateful at the same time. So choose gratitude every day. Whenever you can, think of things that you're grateful for, and I guarantee it'll make you feel happier and better about your life. And number 2 is to focus on what you want. So I believe the main reason why we complain in the first place is because we're focused on what we don't want. We're focused on the issues, the problems in our life. So for example, I can look at my bank account now and see that there's, let's say, £500 in there. And I can either go, oh no, I've only got £500. My life is terrible and I'm poor and I'm broke. Or I can go, wow, I've got £500. That's amazing. Do you see the difference there? So for example, instead of focusing on how I've only got £500, I can focus on what I do want as well. I want there to be £5,000 in there. I want to make £50,000 this year. I want to make £100,000 this year. It's quite a subtle shift, but I guarantee it'll change your life. It's changed my life, right? So instead of focusing on your issues and your problems and what you don't have, what do you want? How much money do you want? What type of relationship do you want? What type of car do you want to be driving? What type of house do you want to be living in? What type of career or business do you want? And I guarantee things will start to change and your focus will start to drive you towards the things that you want as opposed to attracting more of the crap that you don't want. Okay, lesson number 2 is live within your means. This has had a huge impact on my life. And I've seen a lot of people around me in debt, and it's almost sort of just commonplace these days. Everyone's in debt, everyone has credit cards. Now, there was always a running joke in my family when my dad would always say all the time, I haven't got any money. He clearly did have money, but I think it stemmed from the fact that when he was a kid and for a lot of his life actually, he didn't really have anything, particularly back then. He didn't have anything. So when he did have something, he held on to it. He didn't want to let it go. And he lived within his means. Now, although there's a balance to this, I'm not condoning never going out and never spending a penny. Quite the opposite, actually. I think you have to enjoy your life and you have to do the things that you want to do. However, there's absolutely a balance to this, and I'm a big believer in only spending money that you physically have. So I've never really been in debt, and a year ago was the first time that I had ever had a credit card. But I manage it. I still only spend money that I physically have, so I don't use it really as a credit card. I only use it to accumulate air miles for when we can travel again. And then I pay off the bill in full every single month. And if I have ever wanted anything, I have saved the money. So I remember when I went traveling, I saved money for 2 years and then I was able to go. So aside from never really being in debt if you do that, the second element is you appreciate money a lot more because you've worked for it. You've saved up. There's delayed gratification, essentially. So you haven't just had it instantly for not really doing anything. You've worked hard for that. So you have such a sense of achievement and it really feels good. Okay, so how can you incorporate this into your life? Number 1 is train yourself for delayed gratification versus instant gratification. I think this is a fascinating concept. So if you think about it, the whole world these days is set up for instant gratification. We want things now. We don't want to wait. We don't want to work. We don't want to be patient. We want things instantly. So for example, you want your food delivered straight away. You want your Amazon parcel delivered immediately. You want abs in 4 weeks. You want to make 10K in 2 weeks. You want millions of followers on social media after posting for a week. You want things instantly without putting in the work, without being patient, without sometimes seeing no results at all for weeks, months, sometimes even years on end. And this is the issue, again, this is the same with money. We want to make money easily. We want to spend money instantly. We don't want to wait. We don't want to delay. Again, if you're saving up for something big, for a car or mortgage or whatever it might be, a big holiday, you need to save, you need to be patient, and that's just how it is. So on a bit of a side note, if you want to find out a bit more about instant versus delayed gratification, check out this book here called The Marshmallow Effect. Essentially what they did was some research that they did years and years ago and they had some kids in a room, so they took them into a room separately. They were able to either have one marshmallow now, or if they waited, so they didn't say how long, but it would be around 15 to 20 minutes. When the person came back in the room, they could then have a second marshmallow. Now, they checked up on all these kids 20 years later. Can you guess what happened? The kids who were able to delay gratification, they were able to wait for the second marshmallow, they were by far richer, happier, healthier than the other kids. The kids that couldn't wait, that had to have that marshmallow now. I find that amazing. So check out the book. I will leave a link in the description below. And the second practical step is to set financial goals. So if you've seen one or two videos on this channel, you'll probably realize by now that I talk about clarity a lot. You have to be clear about what it is you're trying to achieve in life. What are your goals? Where are you trying to go? It's exactly the same for your finances. So I speak to so many people and I ask them things like, how much money do you want to make? And a lot of people say things like, more. I want to make more money. What on earth does that mean, right? How are you going to get there? Because you don't know what it is. You have to be clear. So you need an income goal, you need a savings goal, and you need an investment goal. If you haven't got that, do that now. Now, we're not necessarily talking about, millions of pounds or hundreds of thousands of pounds. Doesn't matter what it is, just start small, right? So the first step, if you have debt now, clear that debt. Okay, it's no point trying to save if you've got debt. Clear that debt. And then the first thing that I say to people is to have an emergency fund. Okay, so that's a chunk of money stashed away for a rainy day. So if you suddenly lose your job or if some emergency crops up, you're not on the back foot. You're not panicking. You're not lying awake at night stressed about money. You've got that tucked away. Okay, so what I tend to say to people is work out your expenses, okay, and then save ideally 6 months for that. Okay, so for me that was 6k. So I've got 6k tucked away in the bank. If it all hits the fan, I can keep going for 6 months without having to make a penny. Okay, so that's the emergency fund. After that, you can start to save some more money for, investing. You can start to invest some money or save for mortgage or whatever it might be. And the third lesson that I learned from my dad was that being bored doesn't exist. So I remember I must have been about 5 or 6 saying to my dad one day, I'm bored, as kids always seem to do. Bored? How on earth can you be bored when there's so much to do? This is what he said to me. And I didn't really get it at the time because when he was a kid, they didn't have computer games and TVs and Netflix and movies and mobile phones and things like that. So how could they not be bored when they didn't have all those things? Yet everyone seems to be bored these days. We have so many things to do, yet we're bored. So clearly it's not a lack of things to do. Instead, it's a mindset shift that is needed. So if you look at people who aren't bored, they tend to be a lot more physically and mentally active. They're always on the go. They're always doing something. They're always thinking outside the box. They're always thinking of things to do. Okay, so how to incorporate this into your life? Number 1 is don't use the word bored. I honestly cannot remember the last time that I used the word bored or even when I was bored because there's so many things to do. And to be honest now, I've got so many things to do. I haven't got time to be bored. I literally don't, particularly with these videos and everything I'm doing. I haven't got time, right? Bit of a side note for you as well. What you focus on expands. So what you are, you will become. So if you think you're bored, you will be bored. If you think you're sick, you'll be sick. If you think you're poor, you'll absolutely be poor. You get my point here, right? Instead of focusing on being bored, why don't you focus on how you've got so many things to do, how good your life is, yeah? And then you'll have a different outcome. And the second thing that you can implement is to focus on mental stimulation. So I've noticed with myself that the times that I have felt bored, is when I haven't been doing anything mentally stimulating. When we are, let's say, killing time, okay? Once we're, tired after work and we're just sort of just sitting there, unwinding. For example, watching Netflix for hours on end, watching some mindless reality TV show. I absolutely can see how you can be bored because the mind is crying out for some mental stimulation. So learn a new skill, go walking, go hiking, learn how to cook, to sing, dance, read a book, do a Skillshare course, meet some new people, whatever it might be. If you focus on mental stimulation, yes, it's certainly good for you because you're keeping the mind going, you're staying active, you're learning something. That's always a bonus. But I guarantee that you won't be bored either. Okay, everyone, thank you for watching this video. A bit more of a personal one for me, but yeah, I really enjoyed this one actually, thinking of the memories. So to check out some more awesome videos, you can check them out right here. If you liked the video, give it a like. Click subscribe below if you're not subscribed. Click that bell notification, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.